Aloha, my name is Clevie Casco. I am a junior at Hawaii Technology Academy. Today I'll be sharing about the impact of how food is grown on the environment. Growing food organically versus non-organically can have very different impacts on the environment. Non-organic farming can cause many bad effects on the environment. The production of synthetic fertilizers used in non-organic farming produces nitrous oxide. Untilling the soil turns stored carbon in the soil into carbon dioxide. Both nitrous oxide and carbon dioxide are greenhouse gases which are causing climate change. Non-organic farming can use a lot of pesticides and other chemicals. These chemicals can affect our soil, land, and water. If these chemicals ever drain into a body of water, the chemicals can kill many of the living organisms in the water. Organic farming is the best farming you should do if you want to be sustainable and prevent climate change. Organic farming has many benefits such as keeping our water and ecosystems clean and healthy, reducing our carbon footprint, and improving soil fertility and structure. This is because organic farming uses composting to trap carbon in the soil and create nutrients. Instead of synthetic fertilizer, it also uses natural methods of pest control, avoiding the use of toxic herbicides and pesticides. Thank you.
Aloha, my name is Hokuo Ka'ale Gilman. I'm a sophomore at King Kekaulike High School, and today I'll be teaching you about food's carbon footprint. The carbon footprint of food. What's a carbon footprint, and what does it have to do with food? Food's carbon footprint, or foodprint, is the greenhouse gas emissions produced by growing, rearing, farming, processing, transporting, storing, and cooking of the food you eat. Here in Hawaii, we are very concerned with the sustainability and security of our food. Meat and dairy's high carbon footprint. Raising animals for consumption has its own huge carbon footprint to begin with, before even beginning the journey to the finished food product that ends up in our homes and on our tables. Meat and dairy specifically accounts for around 14.5% of global greenhouse gas emissions, according to the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization. One reason for this is that cows take longer to grow and reproduce, meaning that the production of beef requires much more feed and land than any other types of meat. What's the solution, you might ask? Eat greener. We don't necessarily have to cut out all meats right away, but the decrease in your personal meat consumption can be very beneficial for not only your health, but also to lessen your addition to the carbon footprint of food. Incorporating things like healthy, organic, locally sourced fruits and veggies will positively impact your body as well as the world around you. Transportation. Transportation of food and carbon emissions. Yes, I did mention incorporating locally sourced fruits and veggies into your diet. Here's why. Luckily, food transport is a small contributor to emissions. For most food products, it accounts for less than 10% and is much smaller for the large GHG emitters. Although that may sound good, here in Hawaii, our total food imports are roughly $2 billion per year. On this basis, Hawaii farms produce roughly 20% of the state's food supply in terms of monetary value. About 80% of the imported foods are from the US mainland. So what can we do? Eat local. Buying locally sourced foods will not only decrease the carbon emissions and its effect on our climate, but will also guarantee you know what you're putting into your body. Supporting local farmers and food businesses is a positive participation within your community and will not contribute to the carbon emissions. Hopefully, by buying and supporting locally sourced food businesses, we can lessen the amount of imported goods we require to survive. Mahalo!
Aloha, my name is Kaimi. I attend Lahainaluna High School, and today I will be expanding on food waste and the question why compost. The EPA estimated that in 2018, in the United States, more food reached landfills and combustion facilities than any other material in our landfills. Why is that a bad thing? If food waste is compostable, then it does not pose any threat, right? Well, in actuality, when food waste decomposes, it emits greenhouse gases. In fact, the landfill accounts for over 15% of all methane emissions. When you send your organic waste to the landfill, it not only wastes potential, but it ends up emitting methane. Methane is 25 times more harmful than carbon dioxide, and the food we throw away is producing it. So, how do we change this? Well, you can help quell climate change, return vital nutrients to the soil around us, reduce landfill wastes, and also might save some time and money avoiding the dump, all by composting. On top of that, you can create a circular economy. The dead plants leave tons of wonderful nutrients for growing plants to feed off of that you can then eat and throw away in your compost once you're done with them. Ergo, you've got yourself a circular economy. So now that you know how beneficial composting is, you may be asking, what exactly is composting? Composting is the process of decomposing organic matter that can be used as soil or fertilizer. When done right, compost is so effective at growing plants, its nickname is black gold.
Aloha everyone, my name is Kahelani Haupu. I'm currently a senior at Seaway Hall, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the science behind composting. Now, although the process seems simple, there's a lot of science behind the creation of fertilizer. There are three phases of compost known as the mesophilic, thermophilic, and the maturation or ripening phases. The mesophilic phase takes a few days of microorganisms breaking down the compost of the waste and causes the temperature to rise due to the heat they produce. The rapid increase of temperature causes an accelerated breakdown of the compounds, known as the thermophilic phase, which can last from a few days to several months. When the waste is properly decomposed, it sits for several months in order to cool down, often referred to as the maturation phase. Now that we know about the process, let's talk about the organisms. The two main types of microorganisms that help in the decomposition process are the aerobes and the anaerobes. In order for aerobes to properly decompose waste, they require an oxygen level of at least 5%. When in the right environment, aerobes consume the compounds and excrete chemicals that are vital for plants to flourish. Aerobic compost is high maintenance and requires turning every couple of days to keep airflow throughout. Contrary to the aerobes, anaerobic microorganisms don't depend on oxygen. Anaerobes aren't as efficient as aerobes and sometimes produce chemicals that are toxic to plants. One of the chemicals that anaerobes release is a stink odor that's commonly compared to rotten eggs. Anaerobic composting is much easier because you can leave it in a pile with the tarp over and just wait. Now we are going to talk about the components of composting. The main mistake that many people make is the assumption that anything can be used to compost, which simply isn't true. In the image shown, you can see examples of what is and isn't recommended for composting at home. The reasons why you don't want to use the items that aren't suggested is because the key component of composition is the moisture levels, and most of these items will either not break down or they'll attract pests. In the diagram, you can see the materials listed of what makes up brown and green materials. The carbon to nitrogen ratio is very important in ensuring the best possible outcome for compost. It is recommended to have a 25 to 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. If you have too much carbon, decomposition takes longer, and if you have too much nitrogen, the compost will stink. And that is all for the science behind composting. Mahalo!